Afternoon to those who've already joined on time. I like it. See how many latecomers there are. And we'll get started. Well, bang on 1 o'clock. So we've got a couple of minutes. Okay, it's 1 o'clock, so we'll make a start. Andrew, if you could help me out with regards any attendees that need to be let into the webinar, and let them in as they come. So yeah, good afternoon, everybody. My name's Mark Armstrong. I'm Director of Modern Workplace at inTEC, and this is our interactive webinar focused all about Copilot. So what we're going to do today is kind of run through as much as I can of the functionality that comes with one branch of Copilot in particular, and that's the Copilot for Microsoft 365. Before I do that, just a really little intro to inTEC. So inTEC, we're an IT company that's here to kind of help organizations deliver on their IT solutions by offering best guidance, best technology, and best support. What that means in English is that we're here to be more than just kind of an IT support function to companies. So we want to be there to offer guidance and consultancy so that when new and interesting things hit the market, like Copilot, we're there to kind of guide you into how to use those best and how to use those safely. And as Director of Modern Workplace, my entire role is focused around kind of finding these new opportunities, these new solutions that we think will help our clients do better, whatever that may look like for them. So as I say, we're going to focus on Copilot. I'm not going to go into the nuances of how to set it up necessarily and all that side of things. What I want to do is demonstrate its capabilities. I'm sure if you're on this call, maybe you already know a bit about Copilot. If you don't, we'll direct you to some links at the end of this, and obviously you'll have ample opportunity to ask questions throughout, so we can kind of cover that as needed. The only thing that I would caveat that with is one of the key provisos that you need to be able to use Copilot is your files in the cloud, and ideally to have those files as well organized as possible. So as I say, we're focusing on Copilot for Microsoft 365, and that is the version of Copilot that straddles all of these applications. So you might have seen Copilot in its various free guises already, baked into Windows 11 or into Edge. This is slightly different in that those are applications that just look at the web in the same way that ChatGPT does. While Copilot for 365 is a paid-for subscription that plugs into your data and plugs into the apps that you use every day. So, as I mentioned, there's a Q&A facility that you can utilize to ask questions throughout. But also, if you want to, you can raise your hand and we can unmute you. And I'll give an opportunity at the end of kind of every little bit of this demo. So after we've demoed its functionality in a particular app, I'll stop for a second. I'll kind of open the floor to questions, and if anyone has any questions or wants me to try and type something in, try and break it, whatever, please don't hesitate to do so. So without further ado, let's I'll share my screen and we'll fly into the demo. So as you would have noticed from that slide, Copilot kind of sits in everything. So all of the 365 apps that I use on a day-to-day basis, I've now got Copilot there in the background, ready for me. So one thing I've been mentioning to a lot of clients, one thing I was under the understanding of is that Copilot could be there as it's essentially a really intelligent search engine for your business. And there are risks with having a really intelligent search engine in your business. And the risk that I always thought was, well, what happens if someone asks Copilot what my salary is? So I tested it, and don't worry, it won't do that. It will come back and say, no, I can't offer you that sort of information. So a useful thing to know, but probably the first thing I checked. I did check just mine though, not someone else in the business. So the purpose of this demonstration, we're going to run through a hypothetical scenario. And that hypothetical scenario is that I want to kind of understand how our sales are doing within the business across our various product sets, and then basically build a campaign around whatever the worst performing product is within our portfolio. So the first thing I want to do then is I go to Copilot baked into Teams, Copilot Chat, and this is kind of my home area for all of Copilot. So from here, as you can see from these examples, I can ask it a lot of questions around files and people and all the rest within my business. So the first thing I want to do is I want to find out where I can get this company data from. So I ask it, I mean, it immediately caveat this entire thing by saying this has been out a week. So sometimes it does offer up a few quirks. So we'll see, hopefully it's going to be absolutely perfect and do everything I ask it for. But if it doesn't, we know why. So here we go. I've asked it, we're going to find company data, and lo and behold, it's found me some documents that I might want to try. And it's given me references straight into those documents. So I'm going to go to the first one on the list, and that's my company sales data. So here we have a spreadsheet of sales across the business over the last few years. So now I want to interrogate this spreadsheet. So the only thing I have to do to be able to interrogate it is it has to be a table. It is. So now I can click on the Copilot icon here, and I can now start asking it some questions. So the first thing I want to do is I want to ask it for a breakdown of the sales of each product year by year. So I'm going to do that. And what it'll now do is, all being well, it will do exactly that. So it will let me know everything that's happened over the last, all over the data that it's got access to, and I can use that to start analyzing. So this is the joy of doing these live. It's obviously being slow just to annoy me. I'm going to give it a second, and I'm going to go to a pre-prepared bit. There we go. Well, here we go. We'll Blue Peter it. So I asked this question earlier, and it gave me a breakdown of sales by product in year, and it will allow me to then import that into a separate area of this PowerPoint deck, so that I can then have that chart ready to go to do some analysis. Of course, it's being, so there we go. Better late than never. So I can add this this chart to a new sheet, but I can start interrogating it a bit further. So I can use this to obviously understand where my shortfalls are, and understand where sales have fallen year on year. We'll be able to do this a little bit bigger now that it's finalized. And we'll make that, where's it put it? Well, it hasn't added a new sheet. Brilliant. Right. Okay. So we'd have this table. I can then analyze this table. It's being obtuse with me now. Oh, there we go. I was being impatient. So here is now my sales data. I can then utilize this to do my analysis and find out which product it is that I want to look at and focus on with regards to sales campaign. what I found with Excel Copilot at the moment is it's the one Copilot that's still in preview. So all of the rest are kind of on full release. Excel Copilot isn't, which is why I have found it to be a little bit flakier than some of the other versions of Copilot when it comes to kind of deriving data. But it's still very good at the basics. So if I asked it to kind of predict what sales I would do in 2024, it wouldn't be able to do that. But what it is very good at doing is just dragging out information from this that just saves me time. So the other thing I can do with this is say something along the lines of this: which company has bought the most from us? And it will be able to analyze what I've said and, all being well, give me an answer. So while it works that out, we'll look at our sheet and we'll work out what where our shortfall is. So I can see where sales have improved and where they haven't. And off the basis of this, I'm going to pick IT support to be the thing that I want to focus on this year and build a campaign around. And so to do that, we'll move across to another application. But before I do, has anyone got any questions around Excel? No? There we go. It's been really slow, typical, but there is my top company by sales based on the data that it's got. So that's Excel. So the next thing we need to do is I need to start, now that I've decided that I want IT support to be the thing that I want to build upon, I need to start that process. So the first thing I want to do is I want to see, well, who should I speak to in the business about writing a marketing proposal? So I go back to Copilot within Teams and I ask it who I should speak to about this proposal. So it will go away, and now it's looking at company data. So it's looking at all the files that it's got access to across the company, specifically what I've got, and it's going to look at colleagues that it thinks would be most useful for me to speak to. In this case, my colleague Mick, who's the person I speak to the most on a day-to-day basis. So that's why I suggested him. It could equally have suggested our marketing manager or any number of kind of other people. So now that I know I've got an idea maybe of who I need to collaborate on this, the next thing I need to do is I need to go into some idea generation. So I know that I want to build a campaign around building IT support up, but I don't know, I've got no idea how I'm going to do that. So I'm going to move into my next application, which is Microsoft Whiteboard. And I'm going to use Copilot again to suggest some ideas for me. So I will do that now. So I want ideas around how do we improve our sales of IT support? Well, it is not being nice to me today. We'll make it a bit more explicit. This is something I've noticed a lot, that you have to be really specific in the questions that you give it. Otherwise, it doesn't play ball often. So there we go. So I've got it's given me some ideas, some stuff that I can do to generate some new opportunities. Now, it might be that I think, oh, well, I like the sound of that, creating targeted email campaigns. So what I want to do now is I want it to elaborate on that and give me some more suggestions that I can do to build that email campaign. So it's done that, and now I've got that. And it might be there's another area in here. I say, oh yeah, offer a free trial. That's interesting. So what does that mean? How would that look? So again, it can give me some ideas, and I can then play around with this. Obviously, I'd be doing this alongside colleagues, so we'd be maybe doing idea generation as well. One of the reasons that Copilot is called Copilot and not Autopilot is it's not there to do everything for you. It's not going to replace us all just yet. What it's here to do is give me ideas as much as anything and kind of guide me in the right direction, and also ultimately mean that I don't have to start from a blank sheet of paper anymore. whatever it is that I'm doing. I can use Copilot to kind of build the framework, and then I can then elaborate on it and work on it from there. So Copilot has been able to give me some good ideas as to what I want to do within Whiteboard. I'm going to ask it to kind of summarize these notes for me now. So again, Whiteboard as an application, really useful digital whiteboarding tool. But if there's lots of people working on it, it can get messy quite fast. Even in the the 1 minute I've been using it, we've got lots of different things in here. So Copilot, and this is something Copilot is really good at across all of the various applications, is able to kind of summarize all this into one nice summary that I can then take with me into my next application, which is going to be Word. So any questions on Whiteboard? Anything anyone would like to see me kind of do or try in here before we move across to Word? Okay, no problem. Right, so here we are in Word. And so when I open up a document in Word, and I'm using it in the browser, but it's the same experience in the desktop application. If I open a new document, Copilot pops straight up and then asks me what I want to do. So I'm going to give it a fairly detailed description of exactly what I want to do, and I base that on the summary that Copilot produced in Whiteboard. So I'm going to ask it to create a marketing strategy to improve inTEC's ability to sell IT support. So there is my description, and I hit go, and off it goes, generating a draft for me. So you can, if this is where kind of having stuff organized in the background really helps. So what this is now doing is this is able to pull information from the web, but it's also pulling information from the business itself. So from our SharePoint repositories, which is how it knows about kind of being able to give a summary of who inTEC are and whatnot. What I can also do within the drafting bit is I can link it to specific files. So if I wanted it to instead write a document based on another document or based on several documents, I can do that, and I can explicitly tell it which documents I want it to reference. If I'm really organized as well, then I can do things like inserting in the design, which you can't do actually in Word online, but you can do in desktop. I could have my design documents already there, so templates around how I want styling to look and things, so that once it's built, I just click that and it will convert everything to the right font, etc., which is a standard Word feature rather than a Copilot feature. Anyway, there it is. It's written my marketing strategy for IT support, and it's based that on a social media campaign, email marketing, and a hashtag challenge, as well as then a conclusion at the end. So it might be that I'm happy with that and go, yeah, fine. But invariably, I'm not. I'm going to want to then go through this and make changes to make it work for me. I'm not going to do that now. What I am going to do instead is just change the writing style a bit. So I'm going to ask it to make it more formal. And it will redraft this based on that. Equally, if I wanted to, I could pick a paragraph and say, oh, can you make this a bit longer? Or can you make this a bit shorter? Or could you make this sound more casual? Can you convert this to bullet points? Any of those sorts of things I can do. So it's very much kind of acting as my assistant, really, to help me ultimately build a document that's going to work and read well. So we'll let that write itself, and then I'm going to show you the kind of the secondary aspect of Copilot when using it in Word. So primary is this. You go to any part within your document, you click on the little Copilot icon, and you tell it to do whatever it is. Write something new, add to something that's already there, change the writing style, bullet point, etc. And we'll let it finish its work. So there we go. I'll keep that. So as you can see, I've got this little Copilot icon all the time kind of following me. So if I thought, well, actually this sentence I don't like, I want that to be changed in some way, then I can do it from here. But the secondary aspect I've got with Copilot is I've still got this chat engine in the working alongside me that I can use to ask questions. So I can have it ask I can ask it to do questions based on just this document. So I could ask it to, as you can see here, summarize this document or ask a question about this document. So if this has been sent to me by somebody else and it's 20 pages long and I don't particularly fancy reading it, then I can use Copilot to summarize or just answer questions that I might have, such as, how much is this all going to cost or whatever. In this instance, though, I want to use it to come up with some suggestions for me. So this is a very ChatGPT type of thing. But I might say, well, I don't know what I'm going to call my new IT solution. So I'm going to ask Copilot to do that for me. So I'm going to ask it for suggestions. And I've said that I want any names to be prefaced with the word inTEC or in. So let's see what it comes up with. And we'll see if it drags up anything worthwhile. We'll see. Oh, well, it's failed miserably at that one. It worked earlier, but this is a live demo, and of course it didn't. But there we go. It didn't give me any suggestions, but it has found that we've already got an IT solution called inTEC Assist. That's useful to a point, I guess, but it's not really what I wanted it to do. So anyway, moving on. The last thing I want to do in Word is now that this document is kind of ready to go, I want to get it sent out to some of my colleagues so that I can pitch this. So the next thing I'll do is I'll ask it to do that for me. So I'll ask it to write an email to do exactly that. So we'll go across to Outlook in a minute, and you'll see why I haven't done this bit in Outlook, and rather done it in Word. So we'll let it produce my email for me. There we are. So I can now copy that, and we'll next move to Outlook to look at the functionality there. Again, any questions on Word? Anything anyone would like me to kind of try out while we're here? Okay, right, we'll move on. So into Outlook we go. So I'll open a new email up and I will paste my email into here. Now, the reason I didn't create the email from here is if I do that, I can, if I create a new email, I can draft with Copilot. So I can ask it to do stuff, but I can't reference documents in here. So I could ask it to write an email in the same way I did before around a marketing proposal, but it wouldn't have access to the file itself. So it couldn't give detail from that file in there. Word can. So if I do Copilot within Word and ask it to do the same thing, it can give me a summary of the document or include details of it. If I don't care about that and I just want it to write a fairly straightforward email, it doesn't reference a document, then I can absolutely do that from within Outlook. So I can do that. I can send my email off. The other key bits of functionality that you get from Outlook, and unfortunately I can't really demonstrate this because this isn't a demo environment, this is my environment, so I don't want to type anything in and expose some corporate information that I shouldn't do. But two of the things that it's very good for is if you've got a long email chain, you can select that email chain and ask it to summarize it, and it will give you a summary of that email. So it'll give you a summary of maybe tasks that are contained within there that were given to you. It'll give you a view on sentiment. You can question around it. So if it's an email discussion around maybe two different solutions, you can ask it what such and such a person thinks about the solution and whether they prefer A or B, and interrogate it in that manner. One of the other things that you can do with regards to email, and this isn't so much in Outlook, it's actually more within Teams and within the chat function in Teams, is I can ask it to summarize or give me information about emails that I've got recently about a certain subject area. And again, it will then bring up that data with links straight to the emails that it's referencing when it does that. So I think one of the key bits of functionality that a lot of people are going to get real use out of when it comes to Copilot is its ability to kind of catch you up on emails. So if it's a long email thread, but you've been off for a couple of days, you don't have to read through that thread anymore, nor risk missing something by only reading maybe the top 2 or 3, the latest the replies. You can ask Copilot to summarize and it will give you that information. If you're off for a week, then you can use Copilot within Teams to catch you up. So I could ask it questions around, well, you know, which emails do I need to prioritize that I haven't read yet? What tasks have I got based on the emails that I haven't read yet? Now, I can't really demonstrate that in my environment. If this is a demo environment, absolutely fine. But believe me, it can absolutely do it, and it's really, really useful. So that is Copilot within Outlook. The other thing to note with kind of all this functionality is it's available through the desktop apps, it's available through the web, and it's also available on mobile. So one of the things that I found useful in the brief time that I've had access to Copilot, which has been about a week, is its ability to draft emails on mobile. It saves an absolute ton of time. So that's Outlook. Any questions on that from anybody, or again anything that people would like to kind of see in action or see it do?
Hi Mark, not a specific question on this, but a wider question from Mark Tunstall about subscription costs. If you look in the Q&As.
Oh yeah, fine. So yeah, we can cover that off now. So hi Mark. So Copilot is £24.70 per user per month. There's a few buts in that. But number one is that for whatever reason, Microsoft have decided that with the Copilot license, it has to be paid yearly upfront. That means it's actually £296.40 per user per annum. It's the only license that I'm aware of that they make people pay for 12 months up front, but for whatever reason, that's what they're doing. I think it's probably part of a way that they can kind of stagger people moving on to it, because I think there's a hint of terror within Microsoft at the moment that everyone's going to get this all at once, and it's going to put real strain on their servers. So I think it's just a way to kind of limit who goes for it out the box. The other caveat is that any users that you want to have a Copilot license must be on at least a business standard license as well. So basically, if they've got a license that includes the applications, they should be okay. So M365 business standard and business premium, and M365 E3 and E5. If you're on those licenses, you can get Copilot. The final thing to note is that there is no education or charity licensing yet. So everyone who wants it is going to be paying the kind of corporate rate at the moment. Now, I'd be very surprised if that doesn't change, but that's kind of where we're at the moment. Okay, so we've looked at Outlook. The next thing we'll look at is PowerPoint. And so I'm going to first get a link to my document, and you'll see why I'm doing this in a minute. So I've sent my email off to my boss. So my boss has come back and go, yeah, sounds great. Let's have a meeting and let's run through it. So now I need to create a PowerPoint deck. So I open up PowerPoint and I go to Copilot. And I get it to do exactly that. So I want it to create a presentation from a file. Now it will bring up, and it has, there you go, the latest file. If it hadn't brought up this file or hadn't used it recently, then I can copy a link to it in there. So I can go create a presentation from this Word doc. So the Word doc we created earlier for marketing strategy for IT support. And it will now build my PowerPoint deck. I could have been way more specific than I have been in that request. So I could have said, oh, I want it to only be 5 slides long, or anything of that ilk, but I haven't. I've just said create it. So it now will. So as you see, it's given me an outline. And what we'll see is once this is created, it also adds speaker notes for all of my slides and makes it look pretty. Again, I can do this against templates that I've already got if I want to have it, you know, if the business has got a certain kind of corporate look and feel that they want to have throughout their presentation deck. But it's now created me a full slide deck based on my notes. And again, you know, this is a Copilot, it's not autopilot. So there's going to be aspects of this that I might look at it and go, I'm not too sure about that. So if that's the case, I can edit. So I generally, rather than use Copilot for this, use Designer. So I can then use Designer and I can then say, oh, well, actually, I want my intro deck to look like that. Maybe for this bit, this social media campaign components, I changed the formatting. But what it's done is it's kind of done 80%, let's say, of the work for me by taking that deck and making it, taking that Word document and making it into a useful deck. Let's have a look, see what the notes look like. If I could use a mouse, and there we go. So there is then my speaker notes for each one of these slides. So again, really clever, really useful bit of functionality to save me some time. Any questions on PowerPoint, or is there anything else in the Q&A? No, we're all good. I saw you with regard, Steve. Yes, we can do. You'll get a copy of the recording at the end of the session. Okay, so that's PowerPoint. The last thing that I think is useful to kind of demonstrate within Copilot is its functionality within Teams meetings. Now we're in a meeting now, so I can't really I can't demonstrate what's happening in this meeting now because it's just me talking. And equally, I didn't actually have that meeting about that fake PowerPoint deck I've just created, so I can't do that. But what I can do instead is I can show you what this looks like for a meeting that I've had in the past. So to make Copilot for meetings work, you have to have transcription on and ideally recording on as well. And as long as you do that, then Copilot runs. So in the meeting itself, and I'll drag across this meeting to kind of show this, is I have this little Copilot icon at the side all the time. So in the meeting itself, I can ask it will be generating notes for me, but I can ask it things like, give me a summary. Again, Copilot gets better the more organized you are and advanced. So if I've got an agenda, for example, attached to this meeting, then I can then ask Copilot, oh, what have I missed? What have we not spoken about yet? And it will tell me. If it's a discussion I'm having between multiple people, again, like I mentioned earlier, I can ask about sentiment. So if I'm talking to a client about products A, B, and C, I can then ask Copilot, oh, what did the customer think about A? Did they like it? Did they not like it? What did they like? What weren't they so keen on? And I can do all of this in the meeting. Equally, if someone asks me a question and maybe I don't know the answer to it, then I can utilize Copilot to kind of as my cheat to give me the answer that I need. So in a meeting, it's really, really useful. And I can use this to generate tasks, as you can see. So I can list action items. There might not be a lot of this because it's just been me talking. But we can do all this to have this working live in the background. But I think where it really comes into its own is post-meeting. So, and there we go. We've got action items, and these will link back to the transcript and the recording. So if I need to see that, I can then go there and I can watch that part of the meeting that happened, or I can read the transcript that it came from, as we can see there. So once I've finished the meeting, I can access my my recording in the same way you access recordings now. So I go to this meeting and I go to recap. Let's hope it doesn't autoplay. It didn't. We're okay. Right. So it's auto-generated me meeting notes. It's auto-generated me follow-up tasks, and I can see engagement across the meeting and who did it. I can then ask it questions. So if I then wanted to Copilot to give me a summary, I can, or I can ask it specific questions. What did someone think about this? Or how much was this? Or what tasks have I got? Now, a lot of this is kind of already being done for me, but if there was something specific that I wanted to find, I can do that. And I can take all of this out and put it into something else if I want to. So I use OneNote a lot. OneNote has also got Copilot built in for things like summarizing and whatnot. But I could drag these meeting notes out of here and into OneNote so that I've got that repository. But the point is, I don't have to write these meeting notes anymore. Copilot's doing it for me automatically, and it's giving me tasks, and it's given me ability to search through the entire transcript. And in the brief time that we've been using it the last week, it's proven to be really, really accurate. So hopefully that will continue. And that is kind of our whistle-stop tour of Copilot to date. Final things to mention before I kind of open this up again to any questions is the stuff that's on the horizon. So we've got Copilot for Microsoft 365 that got released, as you know, I'm sure you're all aware, for kind of everybody else last week, which is great. We've got free Copilot, so that is this Windows button here if you're on Windows 11. At the moment, this is just this is free, and it just searches the web, so it just acts like Microsoft's answer to ChatGPT. On the 5th of February, this will integrate with Copilot for 365. So that section that we've got here in Teams in my chat for Copilot will be here as well if I want it to. So I think Microsoft are making a big beeline to have Copilot at everyone's fingertips at kind of all times. The other aspect of Copilot that you've all got access to now is the Copilot that's built within Bing. Oh, sorry, within Edge. Now this now is integrated with Microsoft Copilot for 365. So I've got the web version, which is just, again, GPT essentially, but I can click work, and that gives me the equivalent of what we were looking at in Teams. So that's my chat where I can get it to catch up on unread emails or tell me about a file or whatever else. This is where it's interrogating my data. Moving on, there's two other bits of Copilot that have been released fairly recently. So this we'll share these links in the chat at the end. But we've got Microsoft Sales Copilot. So this is released, as you can see, in a week. And this is going to be a connector into Microsoft Dynamics, but also a number of kind of third-party solutions to allow you to utilize the power of Copilot to interrogate your sales data. So loads of functionality around this. So its ability to analyze your CRM data to, you know, track habits, to create target lists, maybe of clients that haven't bought from you in a while. Whatever you want to do, you can interrogate that data through Sales Copilot and get there. And that, as I say, it connects to the Microsoft world, but it also connects to third parties. I think out of the box, it'll connect to Salesforce, and there's others on the way. The other thing that would definitely be useful, worth looking at, I think, is Microsoft Copilot Studio. Now, what Microsoft Copilot Studio is it utilizes the power of the Copilot solution, but allows you to build essentially your own Copilots based on the technology. So there's 1,000,001 functions for this sort of stuff. The things that we're looking at as a business is how we can use it to kind of drive engagement on our website, or to kind of automate manual tasks, or just remove certain jobs and push them into the AI world. So we can utilize it as basically a really, really clever outward-facing chatbot. So if your business offers any kind of services to the outside world that utilizes kind of call centers and things, and you want to maybe reduce the load on that team, then building your own Copilot Studio, which can reference your own document libraries that you point it to, can be a really a really good way of doing that. So people can go and ask it a question, and instead of it giving a generic answer based on what it finds on the web, it'll give them a much more specific answer based on the documentation that you've given it access to. So if that question is, how do I fix this, and it's your product, then it has access to how people have fixed that in the past. It has access to the instruction manuals for that thing, and therefore it can give a much more detailed and tailored response. So again, something exciting that's coming through now, something that we at inTEC are looking at a lot, both for our internal use, but also building solutions out for our customer base. And that is everything. So I'll stop sharing my screen briefly. I can jump back into it if anyone's got any questions. But yeah, we've got what, 5 minutes. Although happy to stay on a bit longer. Does anyone have any questions around kind of anything that we've run through today? Anything that you kind of want to see? Any ways in which you want to try and break it? Now's the chance to kind of shout up and let me know. If you raise your hand, I can unmute you, or you can throw it into the Q&A. Okay, I'll take that silence as a no. You've covered everything. That was amazing. So great. So with that, I will. I'll just say that whether
Mark,
you're a customer.
Mark, sorry to interrupt you. I think there may have been a hand raised from Michelle there. I've just switched your mic on, Michelle.
Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't see that. I'll find Michelle and unmute you, Michelle. Right, Michelle, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Just on mute, Michelle. You need to unmute, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Michelle.
Okay. Hi, how are you? Just a couple of quick things from my point of view. So obviously we would have client sensitive data, or we'd have our own business sensitive data. So does that stay within the confines of Microsoft? So from a security point of view, the security of that data, who has access to that? Is it only us, or?
It's only you. So basically, when you use Copilot internally, you're only training Copilot, and Copilot only has access to your stuff, and that doesn't leave the confines of your tenant in the same way that your files don't. So when you're asking it questions, you're training kind of your own version of it, but what you're never doing is training the wider model. Okay. Basically, the people who don't pay for it, they're the ones that train the wider model. As corporate customers, it's self-contained, so no, your data safe.
Okay. And when you ask it a question, it goes out to the web in general and gets that information from there.
A combination of the web and your own environment. Okay. So if you asked it a question about a certain thing that was kind of relevant to your business, it would be able. It's going to use those 2 data points to kind of give you an answer. And you can direct it as well, so you can direct it more towards stuff within your organization if you want. Okay.
And it uses Edge for that, does it?
A combination. So if you do it within any of the apps, it's the same process. So you can either do it within Edge, or if you're in Word, the Copilot within Word still has access to the outside world. So it's not just there to analyze whatever document you happen to have open at the time. You could still use it to ask a more generic question, and it will give you a response.
Perfect. Great.
Good stuff. Thanks, Michelle. No problem.
Thanks, Mark.
Any other raised hands that you've noticed, Andrew? You're more eagle-eyed than me.
I don't think so at the moment, thanks.
Perfect. Okay, good. Well, as I say, I hope that was useful. I will I'll bring up our deck one last time, so that you just got access to some links. So I'm using PowerPoint Live, so the links should be interactive. But basically, thanks very much for joining this webinar. As you've joined the link now, if you join the link post meeting, you should go straight to recording of said meeting. if you want to share that out with others, the link should work for them. So that will give them the ability to watch this back. Please feel free to check out our various socials. So I spend more time than I like to admit creating YouTube videos for the business, although not as many as Andrew and our marketing team would like me to. But there's some good information in there. And yeah, please, if you want any information around Copilot, please don't hesitate to get in touch. We're more than happy to help. If you're a customer of ours or not, you know, we're here to help. We can provide you with the licensing, but we can also provide you with kind of the wraparound around how to best implement it, how to use it, its quirks and all the rest of it. So please don't hesitate to get in touch, and we'll help as much as we can. And with that, yeah, thanks very much for joining.